On this 5th episode of the Get Faster series, we're going to go over 5 strength movements that I think are important to overall speed development and just in general overall athletic development as you get older. These are 5 very basic lifts, but here's my list. First one, squat. And I say squat because you could pick your squat, whether it's a back squat, a front squat, or a goblet squat. Most important thing that's going to be out through this entire video is consistency over time. And consistency might be relevant to what equipment do you have. Do you have a barbell? Do you have dumbbells that are heavy enough? A goblet squat's obviously going to limit your ability to do heavier weights. To argue a front squat versus a back squat, which one is better, I'm not going to get in that argument here, but it's just consistency over time. And sometimes consistency over time means which one do you enjoy more? Do you hate doing front squats? So you're probably going to just skip your squats today. Well, let's stick with the back squat. As long as you're doing the movement correctly, progressing up as far as the weights go, sometimes you have to put that into a factor when it comes to being an athlete, is which one do you enjoy more? So not saying you should skip your front squats all the time. Learn them over a period of time. My only stipulation on these movements is make sure you're hitting depth, parallel or below parallel. If not, work on your mobility. The second movement, deadlifts. Definitely a more controversial one here. There's a famous strongman that's on Joe Rogan, and he talks about how deadlifts are bad for you. You shouldn't do deadlifts. I would definitely argue that if you're not being stupid and you learn how to do the movement well, they can be very beneficial. You don't do heavy loads. You learn how to do the technique, keeping the bar close, and they have a ton of benefits, especially to youth athletes with keeping the bar close, working on a hinging motion, keeping the upper back tight, keeping the core tight, keep the spine in a neutral position. Another reason that I argue deadlifts are really good movements for youth athletes, if done well and not too heavy weights again, is it's probably going to be one of their favorite lifts. And if it's something that they enjoy doing, they're going to get more consistency of doing work over an extended period of time, keeping it safe, and they're going to get more out of their lifting career as they go through their sports and potentially when they get older. Deadlifts are great. They're one of my favorite lifts, and a lot of times they're other people's lifts. Don't hate on deadlifts just because of that video. The third one, probably the most important one, split squats. As far as split squats go, you could do a reverse lunge, you could do a forward lunge. I would argue that split squats are a little bit, I think I like split squats a little bit more. A lot of times they're athletes' least favorite movements, but it's because there's so much involved in them. There's balance, there's proprioception, there's stability, there's core strength. You're working on a unilateral movement, so you're only working on one leg at a time while stabilizing on the back leg. Do your split squats. Now, as far as rep ranges on any of these movements go, I'm not going to go over a ton. It's just consistency over time, making sure you're doing the movements well, and then mixing it up a little bit. Sometimes going a little bit heavier, sometimes going a little bit lighter. Obviously, there's some programming you can run in the sense of your rep ranges and rep schemes out there. We're not going to go into specific details in this list. The fourth movement, and a more controversial one, I don't know if it'd be controversial, but one you may not see on most people's lists, is an elbow plank, and more so a weighted elbow plank. Obviously, if you can do the movement well, if you can do the movement correctly, then put some weights on your back. The reason I put this movement on the list here is because for a youth athlete, I think it helps teach them to brace their core in a very simple and safe manner. We want to be able to brace the core appropriately, so when we get to heavier weights, we can do that with a squat or a deadlift, being able to take air in, keeping that core tight, and keeping that pelvis locked in. A weighted elbow plank can kind of put you in a position where you can work on that technique in a safe way, because if you run out of gas, you can just put your knees down, holding a good position. Weighted elbow planks. The final movement, I wanted to put an upper body movement in here, and that upper body movement I chose is a row, whether it's a landmine row, a seated cable row, dumbbell rows. Again, whatever you have, whatever you consistently do, you want to pick that and run with it. I would prefer more of a landmine row or a single arm row here. I just filmed 2 different rows, but we want upper body strength as well, because when it comes to sprinting, your legs are very important, obviously, because you're sprinting, but the stronger your upper body is, the stronger you can swing your arms. The stronger you can swing your arms, the faster the legs are going to go. So we can't neglect the upper body as well. Just like with the elbow planks, we want to be able to hit the whole body. We're hitting a lower body, an upper body, and a core section. With any of these movements, consistency over time. Enjoy what you do, progress your way up, keep everything controlled, keep it tight, work on your technique constantly, and always being aware and coaching yourself. Are you in a good position? Are you in a stable position? What is the weight? Start with the weight you can always handle and progress your way up on the day, and always get a good warm-up in with warm-up sets.